I'm Kimberly Titlebaum with Recipes for Success, and today I'm at the High Point Library in beautiful downtown High Point. Now, I know we're all staying at home due to COVID, but you should come here and see the wonderful gardens that our gardener Mark has put in. He's got all sorts of wonderful vegetables growing and sunflowers, but best of all, he's got herbs growing. And if you've not had fresh herbs in your cooking, you've really not been paying attention. So today what we're going to talk about is cooking with herbs. Now there's a lot of wonderful things you can do with herbs. They can be used medicinally, as cosmetically, as beauty enhancers, even as pest control. But that's nothing compared to the glories that you can have on your table if you use fresh herbs. Now today, we're going to talk a little bit about how you turn just ordinary food into a feast. After all, what would Thanksgiving be like if you didn't have sage in your dressing and that wonderful smell that fills your whole house when you've got that turkey roasting in the oven, covered with rosemary and thyme and salt and all those wonderful things that go in poultry seasoning? That's what really makes a feast, isn't it? And if you've ever had an ordinary piece of salmon, salmon's awfully good, but once you add some wonderful herb dill butter to it, it's sublime. And even the ordinary can of tomato soup. Now, who doesn't have a nice comforting meal with soup? But if you add some oregano and basil and maybe a little bit of Parmesan cheese to that, you take ordinary up to wonderful. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. It's summertime, and for the next couple of weeks, herbs are going to be great. And if you haven't had time to put in a garden, you still have time to put one in. And if you don't even have a large plot of land, herbs grow beautifully just on a windowsill. And then they can be grown year-round. So what we're going to talk a little bit about today is making a couple of quick and easy herbs dishes. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about cooking with herbs. So if you are going to make a sauce out of, let's just say you're going to make a marinara sauce, and of course we all know if it has tomato in it, you want to add oregano and basil. But these are going to be added not at the beginning, but in the last couple of minutes, the last 5 or 10 minutes that your sauce is simmering is when you add your herbs. Why do you suppose that is? And this is the thing, herbs don't like heat. They just don't. They lose some of that flavor after about 15 minutes. That flavor just goes away into the atmosphere. And you don't want all that wonderful flavor going out in the air. The air doesn't have taste buds. You want it all going into your mouth. So what you're going to do is always remember, add herbs toward the end of the cooking. Now if you're making a sauce, it's going to have to, like let's say you're making a homemade lasagna sauce, and you know that after you've cooked it on the stove, it's going to go baking in the oven. Well, what you're going to do is add extra herbs to make up for the herbs that just start to lose their potency. I want to talk to you a little bit about when to harvest your herbs. Now this is a little bit of rosemary from my garden, and this is some, oh, I wish you could smell this. This is the most magical dill that's grown right here at High Point Library. Now, the time to harvest your herbs, if you're going to use them that day, is early in the morning. Why is that? Because the oils that are in the herbs are their strongest in early morning. As the day heats up, the herb potency goes down. So if you were to pick the same herb at say 5 o'clock in the afternoon as opposed to 9 o'clock in the morning, it's going to taste much less flavorful. So you're going to harvest first thing in the morning, and what we're going to do today is we're going to start off making a herb cheese spread. We're going to start with some softened cream cheese, and what I'm going to do is use this wonderful thing called a mortar and a pestle. You can get them in any decent shop. You can find them online. What these do is crush the herbs. Now, remember I told you about the oils that are at their best in the morning? Well, they have to be kind of coaxed out. And you can coax them out by rubbing them between your hands, but I like to also crush them, and that's the purpose of the mortar and pestle. So I've got a little bit of my dill. I'm putting in a few sprigs of my rosemary. I'm going to cut up a little bit of my basil. Now, basil is a wonderful leaf, very aromatic, but before you put it in the mortar and pestle, you're going to just cut it up a little bit into tiny, more manageable bits. Dump that right in. I'm going to add in both black and red pepper in here. Got to put a little bit of savory thyme, a little bit of fennel seed, a tiny bit of garlic, and what I'm going to do is just grind this all together. And I'm going to work from the outside. There's ridges down in the bottom, and it gives the pestle something to work against. So we're going to grind and grind and grind these all up. Chives would go good in this. Sometimes people even put green onions in as well. What was a lot of different individual herbs are now this wonderful green mash of herbal delight. Now I'm just going to scrape this right into my cream cheese. Get out as much of it as I can. And then I'm just going to begin to mash it all together. This, by the way, is something great for kids to do. Kids love mashing things together. And as soon as they're ready to graduate from mud pies, they're ready to get to work in the kitchen. And I think it's great to think about what you're cooking and what the kids' skill level is, and give them a chance to mix up things. I think my first culinary triumph was mashed banana and peanut butter sandwiches. And you know, that's still a taste treat that can't be beat. So I've got it nicely mixed up. Now I'm going to add just a little bit of Worcestershire sauce to thin it out a bit and give it a little bit of depth to the flavor. And now I'm going to add a tiny bit, and I do mean tiny bit, of liquid smoke. Liquid smoke is a great culinary tool, but it can quickly overtake something. So I'm using 1/8 of a teaspoon. Bring this all up together, blending it. And the last thing I'm going to do is add about a 1/2 cup of Parmesan cheese, or Pomeregano, which is a blend of cheeses. Put that off to one side and mix this up. Now, did you notice I didn't put any salt in this? Now, I didn't forget to add salt. It's just that Parmesan cheese and those sorts of nice Italian hard cheeses, the way they're made, they're fairly salty, and they really don't need that much salt to add to them. And you'll find that these herbs, these wonderful, tasteful, healthful herbs, have more than enough flavor. You're not going to miss that at all. And now what I'm going to do is, this is one of my favorite sandwiches. I just take some lovely bread. There's a wonderful word I learned called schmear. You're going to add a schmear of this lovely cream cheese to this bread. Go all the way out to the edges, because I like flavor in every single bite. And put that down, and I'm going to add thinly sliced cucumber. If you've never had the pleasure of a cucumber sandwich, I don't know what you've been doing with your life. Because there's nothing better on a hot summer day when you're hungry but you don't feel like eating a lot than to have the pleasure of a cucumber sandwich. The only thing that comes close is maybe a nice tomato sandwich with tomatoes right out of your garden. Again, a taste treat that can't be beat. Another bit of a schmear. You like that accent, do you? You like that schmear? My husband's from up north. His accent has crept into my accent a little bit. And there you have a delightful sandwich.